Warning. Censorship. Warning. Censorship. Warning. Censorship. Warning.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. I'm David Menzies, and I'm joined, like every Tuesday and every Thursday, by my lovely co-host. Well, let's put it this way, folks. She has a lot of trouble with her mailman getting the packages on time, but this lady, she always delivers, unlike Canada Post. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
I'm great, David. Thank you for that introduction. And yes, Canada Post is awful. No offense to the people who work at Canada Post. I know there are some people who are grinding it out daily in the machine, but as a rule, terrible
you know what?
company.
I feel kind of bad I brought up your mail problem, Sheila, because mail as in M-A-I-L as opposed to M-A-L-E, because you're probably never going to receive a package again. It's always going to get lost in the mail.
I wouldn't notice the difference. You know, who would even know? When Canada Post goes on strike, who even knows? I don't know. I don't notice. Who knows?
Oh my God. I remember the days in the 70s. They had such a militant union leader, originally from Scotland. He had such a thick accent, I couldn't even understand half his words. And I'm telling you, back then, Sheila, the country would pretty much grind to a halt. You were so dependent. There was no such thing as cell phones and computers and email and everything like that. And they had incredible power. I think all the alternative devices that we have in order to get our information is the reason why we don't see those annual and even semi-annual postal strikes anymore. There's competition.
Well, that for sure. But as Canada Post becomes more and more irrelevant, right? Like we can get our packages. We can get stuff delivered to our house and for cheaper more often than not than Canada Post. But as they become more and more irrelevant, I'm turning into my mom just complaining about the mail. But anyway, as they become more and more irrelevant, the left wants them to do more and more things. Like, have you ever read the Leap Manifesto? In that thing, they want, for some reason, Canada Post to be like the local banking hub and do all these additional things. Like they want it to become a financial institution because it is, like, I can't think of anything worse than the horrible ineffectiveness of Canada Post now being responsible for financial services. But in the Leap Manifesto, for some reason, this far left-wing document, there's so many things that are focused on all the things they want Canada Post to do now that its hands aren't tied up delivering mail late every single day. Every day my mail is late, but it's just me being cranky.
You know, that's typical for this country, isn't it, Sheila? Let's fail upwards. Let's fail and get a promotion to go into other realms.
It worked for Justin Trudeau.
And, you know, I think the last time I did a Canada Post story, I think, don't quote me on this, but I believe their profit margin, what they took in revenue for junk mail, which they hate it when you call it that. It's supposed to be referred to as ad mail. It was something in the neighborhood of $600 million, right? And sure enough, I went to my community post box because I'm one of those second-class Canadian citizen, Sheila. I don't have a mailbox where I can just go to my porch. I have to go to this little hub and with a key and open up my community. And what came in the mail today? Was it a postcard from some relative in Europe? Was it a letter from a family member somewhere across Canada? No, it was a flyer for the new roasted garlic king, the new Burger King burger, which... I don't know.
Justin.
That was my mail. That was worth the trip, Sheila, to get a flyer for the roasted garlic king. I should take a knee, but I'm in a seated position.
You tell me you're not going to use that coupon, though. You tell me, because I think you will.
You know what? What is the coupon? Oh, wow. It's a free Whopper.
See?
Oh, wait a minute. A free Whopper on your first mobile order over $1. Forget it. That's too much tech for me, Sheila. Anyways, what is the ostensible policy reason for why we're getting together as opposed to just rambling on about Canada Post?
I can't even believe I'm turning into such a boomer complaining about the mail. But anyway, let's talk about why we're here. Today is the Rebel Daily News live stream. It used to just be on Fridays, just hosted by Ezra. But then the pandemic hit. There's more news than ever, but we couldn't really go anywhere at the time. So we thought, why not sit down and talk to our friends, our viewers.
Yep.
And in my case, I get to talk to David for an hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Ezra hosts Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it gives us a chance to talk about the news of the day because things are changing all the time. That's the thing about the pandemic. One day masks are no good. The next day, some bureaucrat says, yeah, everybody's got to wear a mask. One day your business is open. The next day, nope, it's got to be closed. And then the next day, groups of 20 are fine. And then groups of 10 are fine. And then, no, you literally can't go outside at all. So the news is changing so fast. The regulations around the pandemic are changing so fast. So you got to talk about it in a non-scripted way. So that's what we're doing here. Gives us a chance to interact with our viewers. And it also used to give us a chance to pay the bills a little bit when YouTube used to allow us to take something called a super chat. However, YouTube went completely evil, demonetized us. And so we are still on YouTube. We're here for spite. They don't want us here, so we're here. And it's a great way for people to find us. And then let's migrate you over to a platform that doesn't hate you. So currently we are also streaming on Rumble and Odyssey and Super U. Those are great free speechy platforms. They like us. We like them. I think they like our viewers too. And so might I suggest, if you're watching us on the censorship platform of YouTube, say goodbye to YouTube. Thank them for allowing you to find us and jump on one of those other platforms and watch us there. And if you are on Super U, Odyssey, sorry. If you're on Odyssey, you can do something called a hyper chat. And it's similar to the old YouTube super chat. You have to buy Odyssey's library cryptocurrency. I don't understand cryptocurrency, but I'll happily take some off your hands in the form of a hyper chat. And it allows you to leave a comment and support the work that we do completely willingly, unlike what Justin Trudeau does with the mainstream media. You've got to support them whether you like them or not. So anyways, thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Indeed. And, Sheila, good segue here. Speaking of chatting online, somewhere around midnight, we had an anti-Cinderella story occur in the House of Commons, namely Bill C-10 passed. And this is, well, how can we describe this, Sheila, in an abbreviated fashion? Perhaps a bill that will allow Canada to have the most regulated internet service in the entire free world. We're talking about China kind of stuff happening in Canada. And there's a lot to get into with this. But, Sheila, right off the bat, what really disturbed me the most about this is so far the lack of media coverage that this thing has been. And look at the fervor of the Justin Trudeau Liberals, going all night long to get this through. And, this is the most pressing thing. Suddenly, what's COVID? That's just a trifle. And in the wee hours, this got passed. And the thing that bugs me, Sheila, is the lack of media coverage. I was even monitoring the talk radio stations in the Toronto area, and there wasn't a single peep. And you would think this is going to affect them. If they have websites, and they do, right? But Sheila, what are your thoughts on this? The only thing I can think of, the silver lining, is that, of course, it still has to get Senate approval. Yeah. And will that come in time before the summer recess or before the writ is dropped for Justin calling an election, whenever that might be?
Yeah. So I'm just reading the National Post article on Bill C-10, and take that with a grain of salt, because as we know, National Post is one of the bailout media companies.
Yeah.
So they used to be Canada's conservative newspaper of note. Now they're just like the Toronto Star, which I noticed the other day. I saw an article that basically my dream is coming true. Whoever bought or whomever bought the Toronto Star, they're parting them out like an old Camaro. They're just selling them off for pieces, which I think is, thank you. That's all I ever wanted.
As a former owner of a 74 Camaro, I can tell you what a nightmare that can be, especially with the doors drooping. But continue, Sheila.
So National Post, this is how they describe it. With regard to Bill C-10, the legislation drafted by Justin Trudeau's government known as Bill C-10 is meant to subject tech giants to the same requirements as traditional broadcasters, effectively compelling companies like Netflix and TikTok to finance and promote Canadian content. It's among the most far-reaching plans by government anywhere to regulate algorithms tech companies use to amplify or recommend content. And in an age when everyone is a potential publisher, the act to amend the Broadcasting Act could affect individual expression on social media and other digital platforms that rely on user-generated content. So I don't understand why CBC is not upset about this, because the only thing that CBC has going for it is the fact that it is like the insufferable CanCon network. But now this bill is going to make basically everybody else be like the CBC, just shoehorning CanCon that nobody wants into Netflix. That's one of the only reasons I have Netflix, is because there's nothing on regular terrestrial Canadian TV that I want to watch. But now because nobody wants to watch that terrestrial regular Canadian TV, everybody migrated over to these other platforms, and then all the bad ideas of the terrestrial TV is following you over there. There's literally no escape from insufferable Canadian content.
But Sheila, if only it were all about more Canadian content being forced down our throats, I wouldn't be so nervous. But it's the other part of Bill C-10 to ensure that websites and podcasts and videos are free of misinformation. And what immediately springs to mind is that Latin phrase that translates into "who watches the watchers." Are you telling me that the criminal, Stephen Guilbeault, he is the judge and jury in terms of misinformation out there? Are you kidding me? This is very ominous. And again, I'm happy there's some, news coverage from the National Post about this, but it doesn't get into the nitty-gritty of the censorship element of this bill, Sheila. Should it become law, it will be the most regulated internet that we have in our dominion in the entire free world. That's not acceptable. And this is from a government member in 2015. We're going to be the most transparent government in Canadian history. Do you remember that little nugget? It's the exact opposite. They're putting the calipers on free speech. They have reached out to the media, whether it's the CBC, $1 billion a year, 'twas ever thus, the newspaper fund, $595 million and growing, the magazine fund, the Maclean's fund, and that's the carrot. And for all of you media outlets, ourselves included, that didn't pony up to the trough to have a carrot, here comes the stick. And make no mistake, Sheila, one of the prime targets of this legislation is little old us. In Justin Trudeau's world, it's kind of like that, phrase of home on the range, where seldom is heard a discouraging word. He doesn't like any discouraging words, and he'll bribe you or bonk you in terms of getting compliance in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, this bill is designed to, and again, I initially talked about the reason the Liberals say they brought in this bill, and it's because they called it the streaming tax bill. But in everything the Liberals do, there's always that other sinister backdoor motive. And it is designed to, for lack of a better term, Apple daily places like us, places like True North, post-millennial. I would suggest Western Standard is probably going to be caught up in this. If we don't, as Minister Stephen Guilbeault, or Guilbeault, I don't know. I refuse to learn how to say his name. Anyways, Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault said that Bill C-10 is all about the need for Canada to, quote, tell our stories in the 21st century. Now, they don't mean our stories, like ours, like the rest of us, conservatives or anybody with a divergent viewpoint on literally anything. They mean tell the liberal stories. That's what they mean. And if you don't, you're going to face serious censorship. And there's something very telling in the bill, because I'm just reading on openmedia.org. So take that again for what you will. They say there's some rhetorical progress in the bill, which amends the current Broadcasting Act by calling for the, quote, needs and interests of all Canadians, end quote, to receive some support, including, this is the crazy thing, Canadians from racialized communities and Canadians of diverse ethno-cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, abilities and disabilities, sexual orientations, gender identities, and gender expressions. However, you notice they don't put in there different opinions. Like it's all like the other things, but there's no any protection in here for people with different opinions to talk about their specific opinions. It's all just, sure, here's some money to talk about your gender identity, but I want to talk about quit taxing me.
Yeah, it's funny. They've always got to put race into everything, even when there's nothing to do with race. But Sheila, if, as you said, the ostensible policy reason is about Canadian content, telling Canadian stories, isn't that what is the existence of the CBC all about? Canadian broadcasters employing Canadians, telling Canadian stories to Canadians, even though, I haven't tuned into CBC in so long a time, but I remember seeing bus shelter ads, and they were promoting Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, which I think are shot in Los Angeles. So the thing is, we already have this bloated propaganda television ministry with its own website, of course, which doesn't allow comments, at least not nasty comments. So when it comes to the telling the own story business, we already got that, and it's been around for over half a century. So why this?
Well, and Canadians are by and large rejecting it because the amount of viewership the CBC receives is basically a statistical rounding error of people who watch the 6 o'clock news. And one of the things in this is if they aren't going to hard censor you, like just have a platform remove you altogether, they will soft censor you by limiting your discoverability. That's something that's in here. They want to support Canadian content discoverability. So that means that if we publish something that might run afoul of the Liberals' new law, they might not censor us by yanking us off the platform or killing that content, which is something that YouTube already does. Yeah. But they might just make sure that nobody ever sees that content by using the algorithm to effectively shadow ban what we're doing here.
What a world we're in when it comes to free speech, Sheila. You have the Silicon Valley tech giants on one end, and then you have government on the other end. And by the way, whatever this bureaucracy is going to look like, would you trust some progressive liberal appointee to be wearing the referee's jersey with the whistle, calling out the so-called offenders online? This is just atrocious. And again, I'm actually beside myself how little coverage this is getting. I bet you, Sheila, if I went down to Yonge Dundas Square to do streeters and asked people, hey, what do you think about Bill C-10 passing? Would 1 in 100 even know what I'm talking about?
No, probably not. And I was just going to make another point, and I think it's pretty relevant to us, but also some of the companies that we work with. So you look at companies like Odyssey and Rumble and Super U, which Justin tells me now has a chat ability now to support the work that we do. Is that right, Justin? Oh, perfect. So you can actually send us a tip on there.
Great.
Which is something
Excellent.
that you couldn't do before. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much if you do that for us. But they exist and they're doing well in response to YouTube's censorship, right? Like there are people who are migrating over to these platforms. And in the case of Rumble and Super U, these are Canadian companies. They exist in response to the censorship of YouTube. And again, just like horrible Canadian content policies, the censorship policies, the Liberals are making sure that YouTube censorship policies follow us into these other companies. When we try to escape them, they make sure that they follow us wherever we go. And it's like they can't get you one way, so they get you another. They can't get you through friendly YouTube, so then they have to bring in these regulations literally at the 11th hour or the 13th hour, depending on how you look at it, to pass these laws literally under cover of darkness in the middle of the night. The Liberals, if I know anything about Liberals, and especially Justin Trudeau's Liberals, they are lazy. They are lazy. They like to work as little as possible. And yet they somehow found the energy to stay up to the middle of the night to pass a censorship law. That tells you how important it is for the Liberals to shut up their loudest critics, that's us, in advance of the next election. So while you might be a little bit hopeful that this might die in the Senate before the summer, I'm worried because I think the reason they stayed up late when they are exceptionally lazy is the same reason that they are going to push this through before it dies, before summer break, is because they need this firmly in place in advance of the next election because they need to shut us up.
100%, Sheila. And, there is plenty of blame to go around. I mean, there are many members, if you can believe it, folks, of the Bloc Québécois and the NDP who thought that this bill doesn't go far enough, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
That's how censorious those folks are. Even if it does get passed, Sheila, surely someone, maybe even us, I don't know, has to undergo a constitutional challenge of this.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody knows anything about us, if we're going down swinging.
Yeah.
And we'll fight to the bitter end. And the beauty of that is that we have such dedicated and committed supporters who really want us to live. Every time we're in some sort of existential jeopardy, that's when our viewers and supporters really come through. And so, friends, expect us to call on you in the coming days and weeks as we figure out more about this bill and what it's going to do to us. And I'm sure, like always, our people will come through. And I'm always so grateful for that they just want us to keep on living.
That's what I love about our viewers, Sheila. They are so engaged. They get it. Mm-hmm. And they are willing on so many occasions to put their money where their mouth is and send it into us to fight these good fights. I mentioned, going down to Yonge Dundas Square to ask about Bill C-10. Maybe not even 1 in 100 people would know it. And I'm not... this isn't me just dreaming up something, folks. We've talked about this before a few years ago when the last election writ was dropped, and I went to Yonge Dundas Square with a beautiful photo of Andrew Scheer and asked people, who is this man? Maybe it was 1 or 2 out of 10 that could give me his name. And I'm sure if I said, hey, can you tell me about the new Kim Kardashian bikini? Oh, boy. They would quote you chapter and verse on that. Let me tell you, they know the designer, when she was modeling it, et cetera, et cetera. This is what scares me, Sheila, is simply the lack of engagement. There are things happening, I don't even want to call it behind the scenes, because they're not behind the scenes. They're happening right in Parliament. And people don't know about it. They don't care to know about it. It's like everything's good on my side. And brick by brick, you see the foundation of freedom just being torn down.
Just wait till these little Kardashian fans realize that they're not going to be able to get as much of their Kardashian fix as they would like because of these new rules. Yeah. And they're going to have to hear about, I don't know, whatever Anne Murray has been wearing lately, because that's what's going to be shoved down our throat.
I feel so bad to ask this question. Is Anne Murray still alive?
I think she's hanging on.
Okay. Anne Murray fans, don't condemn me. I've lost track. Well, from Bill C-10.
Snowbird. She took her tiny wings and flew away. I don't know where she is these days.
Okay. And I believe Sheila, we do have some chats on this subject.
Oh, okay, great. Let me have a peekaboo at that. Okay, great. We've got a hyper chat from Whitfell DM. For everything Odyssey, QA, content systems, overlays, ECT, follow and click the bell to keep up to date when we go live. Oh, someone is spending their marketing dollars by leaving a chat for us. That's okay. I'll take it. Drop a question or a comment. Thank you for choosing Odyssey. You got it. We've got a Rumble chat from MVP337. People who value freedom are the minority. Annalisa. Looking forward to wearing my Menzies shirt. Oh. Yeah, baby. Okay. Justin, queue up the store, and I'll just breeze through these because there are so many good things in the store these days. We have to get and spend some time on the store. Least of which is the David Menzies shirt. But there's also a shirt in there that I approved that I think David Menzies needs immediately. And you have to order like 2 days or the next day if you want it in time to wear it. Okay. Thanks, Annalisa. A hyper chat of 5 libraries. Well, thank you very much. Adam Wanders, thank you, Rebel News. Thank you. And thank you for your generous donation of library cryptocurrency. A hyper chat of 1 library from Juice Moose. C-10, the death of free speech. They're going to try. Boy, they're going to try. A Rumble chat from Juice Moose. Screw YouTube. YouTube says C-10 is a bad idea. Yeah. Super U Shout, I think they're called. Oh, gosh. Oh, boy. JYO. So, Yogarretnum. Hey, guys. Nice to see you. Oh, I'm John Yoga. John Yoga. Yorkie. Thank you, John Yoga. Sorry, I just absolutely butchered your name there. Church, they have to get rid of Rebel before the next election. Yes, exactly. This is not designed to harm the likes of the National Post. No. National Post has their hat in their hand again. They're just panhandling around for Justin Trudeau bucks. And they see this streaming tax as a way to get even more money in their pocket. They don't care if it hurts free speech. Those sort of journalistic ethics, those are out the door the second you take a penny from Justin Trudeau. A hyper chat of 1 library. Sorry, I skipped one. I'll go back, Justin. Aquaskies 3636. What shall we do? Love you guys. You know what? We will plan to fight in some way if it comes to that, and we will call on you then, I'm very sure. We've got a super new shout of Hammers Girl 88. The government wants to silence Rebel, True North, etc. Yep. That's exactly who it's targeted at. Exactly who this is targeted at. They pushed through last-minute legislation, like I said, to Apple Daily Us, that if we won't comply, what's the enforcement? So they, what did they do? Did they come to our head offices, yank our servers, take our computers? Like, what did they do? What did they do if we decide to go around to this somehow?
Well, Sheila, I've been around the block for a while, and I remember under Pierre Elliott Trudeau, they once had the Mounties raid the offices of the Toronto Sun, carting off boxes of, they were trying to find information, I think, at the time on a whistleblower. I can't even remember what the story was. Yeah, so I guess, the acorn or the apple doesn't roll far from the tree. But what gets me, Sheila, is that, as you've mentioned, most of the media is in the pocket for this government. How fragile an ego does this Prime Minister have? That there's this little fringe out there, us and a few others, who aren't buying into the program, so to speak. And if he can't bribe us, he's got to legislate us out of existence. That is just absolutely staggering to me, the character of this man.
Does it stagger you? Because it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Yeah. He's petty. He does things that... He is everything he said he would be and more. He's that male feminist. He believes that hurt feelings are hate speech. This legislation completely aligns with the Justin Trudeau that we know.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I got to tell my teenager. Sorry, I'm telling my teenager to get off the internet.
Oh, is that why it looks like you're beaming up to the Enterprise right now?
Yeah. She's done exams, so she's home, which means that it's 10:29 here. From Rosti, if you care about freedom, join me on Telegram. Send an email to albertastrongandfree@protonmail.com. Let's take back our country. Do you know what? I appreciate the hustle of some of these people giving us libraries so that we read their promotional stuff on air. But you know what? Good for you guys. Hyper chat of 3 libraries, Juice Moose. Just watch, they will take down the CCFR. Hey, I'm wearing one of their t-shirts right now. And any other group that opposes their crackhead legislation. I would say pothead legislation, but it's your super chat or your hyper chat or whatever it was. So I'll read it as is. Justin, would you mind throwing the store up there, please? Friends, this is the beautiful revamped. Stop right there. Stop. rebelnewsstore.com. And if you haven't already used your coupon code Sheila10, it's good for 1 use. So if you haven't used it, now's your chance. Put a few things in your cart, like I said, because you can only use my promo code once, Sheila10. If you've already used my promo code, please use David's promo code because you don't want to miss this shirt. I don't know if you can zoom that in. The Menzoid shirt. Oh, it's unisex because it is definitely for everybody. It is David Menzies, the Menzoid unisex shirt. It comes in a hoodie and another style too as well. The t-shirt and in orange.
And Sheila,
it comes in orange. I'm gonna wear that hunting.
Sheila, believe me, I am so humbled that the company would put that image of me on the shirt. It wasn't something I pitched, folks, so please don't think I'm some egomaniac. And just in case I were to disrobe, I don't have that body. Okay, that's
David.
But you know what it is, folks. It's just like when you see an advertisement and it says not exactly as shown in the fine print.
Yeah.
Or sometimes with cars, U.S. model shown, right? So that isn't actually me. I'm full disclosure. I don't want to pass myself off like I have a physique like that. I would love a physique like that. I didn't know they were actually going to do that. I was brought in by Alex to get my picture taken. I think I was even wearing my hat at the time, and they cropped it out. So there's been all kinds of
I love it.
Photoshop.
I love it. And you know what? We see homemade t-shirts of David Menzies out at protests all the time. And I thought, you know what? We're leaving a lot on the table here. We really have to start delivering what our people want because they clearly want it. Justin, also go back to the store because we got to go through some really great designs on the store.
I just hope it sells, Sheila. Do you know how humiliating it would be that come December it's already in the remainder bin and being sold for 70% off or something?
Well, now's the chance for our viewers who tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays specifically because of you, David.
Yes.
To show you some love. Get the Menzoid shirt. You know what? Objects in the rear view mirror may appear deadlier than they are. But that's fine. Yep. You know what? Everybody photoshops. Most people Photoshop. The Kardashians do. You can too. It's fine.
You're right, Sheila. When we embellish our stuff a little bit from here and there, it's called writer's license, right? So this is writer's license of the visual kind.
Exactly. Now, right beside that shirt. The Freedom Isn't Free shirt. I think this is a great Canada Day shirt.
Dominion Day,
again,
please.
Unisex shirt. Great Canada Day shirt. Just wait, David. There's something in the store to address that problem. Anyway, if you celebrate Canada Day, that shirt, Freedom Isn't Free. If you order it, I think today or tomorrow, it should get to you in time for Canada Day. Let's keep scrolling, please. There's a Save Archer shirt.
Great one. Beautiful.
There's a couple new ones. There's a Canada Day shirt right there too. I like that Save Archer one with his face right there. the Save Archer 2 shirt. That's pretty nice. Canada Day shirt. Happy Canada Day. David, do you see that? Do you see it? That's
wonderful.
For you.
Fantastic. You know, Sheila, you know what's perversely ironic here is that years ago I started this campaign. I know it's a lost cause to bring back Dominion Day. You know, this was Pierre Elliott Trudeau on the last day of Parliament in 1982 on a Friday in July, ramrodding in legislation to erase more than a century of history. There was less than a quorum, by the way, Sheila. 13 people in the House at the time. A quorum was 20. And so people say, well, this is illegal legislation if it's less than a quorum. And I went to the Procedure and Rules Committee, and they told me basically, no, if all 13 are on the same page, you don't need a quorum, which is kind of disturbing to me because you'd never want something even, far more serious to be passed in than that. But so I had these badges with a green circle around Dominion Day and then a red slash over Canada Day. And look what's happened right now in 2021. Look what's happening across Canada with certain municipalities. There's even one in your neck of the woods, Sheila, that are canceling Canada Day, not to replace it with Dominion Day. It's just because, well, it's kind of offensive to somebody, maybe, sort of. And I guess if Sir John A. Macdonald, the founder of Canada, is offensive and we tear his statues down, well, then why not go all in and say the whole country is offensive? And I never thought that, when I was being whimsical with those buttons, with the red slash through Canada Day and the green circle around Dominion Day, I never dreamed that Canada Day would be deemed offensive in certain municipalities, not because of that crazy name change it went through in 1982, but because, well, these are people, as far as I can tell, Sheila, they don't like the idea of Canada.
David, it is to my great regret that we didn't put a retro version of your button in the store on a shirt and made it like a limited edition T-shirt. I would have bought it. I would have worn it. Anyways, getting back to the store.
Yes.
If people would like their Dominion Day T-shirt in time for Dominion Day, to celebrate Dominion Day with David Menzies, near or far, please use the coupon code Menzies10. Is it Menzies10 or David10?
Do you know,
I think it's
Mr. Producer?
10. I think it's Menzies 10. I think it's Menzies 10 in the store. Throw yourself that Menzoid shirt in there too while you're at it.
Yeah.
And that's the rebelnewsstore.com. And we just plunked a whole pile of new T-shirts in there. So the store is constantly refreshing all the time. And frankly, they are more like little smoke signal shirts. They might have a Rebel logo on them somewhere, but it's more like you're putting out like a puff of smoke to the other rebels of the world. They'll know where you got that shirt. They'll know you're a rebel. But the socialist distancing shirt, that turns up everywhere, by the way.
Oh, I love that.
We go to interview Fight the Fines clients and they're wearing a socialist distancing shirt. But anyways, the shirts they're like a little puff of smoke to the other rebels of the world. They know who you are. You'll know who they are. You'll meet, you'll become fast friends, and you'll become like a little alliance in the world. You'll find your people out there when you're wearing a rebel shirt.
Sheila, maybe we got to get an image of you on one of these shirts or sweatshirts. There's that beautiful photo of you with that giant, what is it called, a compound bow? It looks like something that could kill a buffalo. And I don't know what you were aiming at, but it is, it's beautiful scenery. It's, near your home, I presume. Yeah. And, you've really got that, huntress look about you. I think that's a winning image too.
You've slightly romanticized that a little bit. It's my front lawn. I'm shooting at a styrofoam deer that we've affectionately called Vinny the Venison. He's just like 50 yards from where I'm standing. You've described it in a romantic way, but it's not special.
Sheila, you're being too humble. Isn't your front lawn basically the wilderness of northern Alberta?
The front lawn is actually generally a canola field. It is the back of the house that
there
is
you
the wilderness.
go. A canola field. I living in the GTA, nobody has fields fronting their property. We're all cooped in.
Yeah, in that prison state. You're just like, what's that? Escape from Los Angeles? Is that the movie?
Escape from New York, I believe.
Escape from New York. That's how you guys have to live. It's gross.
Well, thank you so much. And again, very humbling that the company would put my image, albeit slightly exaggerated, on a shirt. So if you're going to order it, folks, my thanks in advance. And we talked about, of course, the bill C-10, part and parcel of cancel culture, wouldn't you say, Sheila? And here's another part of cancel culture. I think, we don't know for sure, but the police name these fires in BC of churches suspicious. That means arson. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, Sheila. I'm shocked at the lack of outrage by those in the media. The idea of 2 mosques being burnt to the ground, could you imagine the outcry about that? And I certainly don't want any religious institution burnt to the ground. But this seems, I think suspicious is underplaying it, Sheila. The idea that these 2 churches basically both burned down around the same time. And, my suspicion, and I might be wrong, I don't have any evidence, I don't have any proof, but it's all about a reaction perhaps to the residential school system. But these were churches that were used by Natives. They're in the here and now community centers. They were used for Native weddings, Native burials, and so on. Whoever burnt these down, if it was arson, just exactly what was the point? What were you hoping to accomplish other than bring misery to a community?
That's the thing. In a small town, whether outside do-gooders like it or not, and anti-religious bigots like it or not, in a small town, and that's often what Indigenous reserves are, is just a small town, they're the community hub. Yeah. They're where you go to mourn. They're where you go to celebrate. They're when you need help with addictions and crisis. It's the church community that is the first place where you can get help. And, when you're hungry, when you're depressed, it's the church. It's always the church. And so if indeed these arsons are retribution for what happened at the residential school, and we don't know that yet. We don't have a clue. They're just saying that this is arson. But if indeed these are retribution for what someone has concluded is mass murder, I guess, against Indigenous people, well, congratulations, you just hurt Indigenous people first. Yeah. You're punishing them. But secondarily, I don't know if you've seen the rhetoric in response to, I noticed that, I think it was Andrew Scheer, maybe it was Aaron O'Toole, one of them. Not that it matters, they're the same guy.
Just call him Aaron O'Scheer, and that covers both bases. It's like they both went into the teleporter in the Fly movie, and
one of them tweeted something in regards to these arsons. And the whole way down, it was like, well, karma. They had it coming. This is what you get. But it was, all of it was basically like these Catholic churches had it coming. And I know that if anybody else had tweeted that about a mosque fire on Twitter, not only would you be banned from Twitter, your descendants would be banned from Twitter. Your children and your children's children. You would never exist on Twitter. And you would probably have a hate crimes investigation against you. But because this is an arson against a Christian church, that sort of rhetoric is perfectly fine on the internet. If you bring up, I think it was Andrew Scheer, but it could be Aaron O'Toole. Again, they are so not standoutish that I can't even differentiate, and I exist in politics. But if you go down, Yeah, if you go down, it is just nothing but people saying they had it coming.
And but you know what, Sheila? Of all these trolls saying karma and you had it coming and this is a good thing, how many of them, if any of them, live in those communities, right?
They don't care.
Here's the deal. How about sending somebody, a reporter there, and going to all the residents, that lived in that community and say to them, churches are burnt down. Good thing, bad thing. I bet you the overwhelming response would say it's a tragedy, it's a bad thing. This is not a good thing. Because otherwise they would have burnt it down themselves en masse. It would be like a scene out of a Frankenstein movie of pitchforks and torches descending upon the church. But nothing could be further from the truth. These were community hubs. And all of these people, and I would imagine so many of them are urbanites, so many of them subscribe to the Antifa way of doing things, which is the fascist way, being violent. They're the ones that are saying, oh, bravo for the church burning to the ground, not the people who are actually going to these churches.
Right. I mean, one of these churches is quite old, or was quite old, is sad to say, but quite old. That means generations of people were married there, buried there, baptized there, received their sacraments there. That's another thing people don't understand. Non-religious people don't understand. I think we're getting a package delivery in the office there, by the way.
You can hear that?
Someone go get the door. But for Catholics, it's not just like the process of like baptize and then you're in the church. There's a successive series of sacraments where you are initiated into the church a little bit as you go. Your first communion, your first confession, your confirmation. All those things are gone, and they're so important. They're so vital in the life of a Catholic, and that's gone. Yeah. And they've done this to Indigenous Catholics.
Yeah.
And I noticed that Ellis Ross, so he's the BC Liberal, again, before people start getting mad. BC Liberals are not necessarily like the federal Liberals. They're sort of this right of center coalition party in BC. You just can't really get elected as a Conservative there provincially. So Ellis Ross, Indigenous himself, and a huge advocate for the Indigenous community, for the right of Indigenous people to determine their own future, and for economic prosperity, and for their involvement in fossil fuel development. So a really great booster of his community. He has spoken out against this. He issued a statement. I found it in the SurreyNowLeader.com. He said, in the aftermath of the horrible discovery at Kamloops, my heart has been filled with hope, watching Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians come together to mourn the victims of residential schools. I am in awe of how far we've come. Let it be those feelings of togetherness, community, and shared suffering that we now draw upon in the wake of this horrible incident, rather than hate, anger, and bitterness about the past. Reconciliation isn't about taking revenge for past tragedies. It's about finding a way to chart a path forward so that we can all share a great future. It's about all British Columbians and all Canadians working together to build strong, healthy, prosperous communities in this great country in which we live. We must ensure future generations of Canadians, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, will not be held back by the divisions of the past. Right now, I urge all to stay safe and please be calm. Together, we will get through this. So that's the right response.
Yes.
However, we haven't heard that from the Prime Minister. And I worry that a lot of the rhetoric around the residential school discovery, the uncertainty that is around it, while people were reporting things as 100% certain that we don't know, I worry that it might have contributed to this. And again, speculation, we don't know. But those comments, those comments are real. Those comments in response to people saying, this is awful, this should not have happened. And the people saying, well, they had it coming, they deserved it. That is real. We know that the rhetoric around the school has led to the response of the people who are saying that this community had this coming.
Shameful. And like I said, Sheila, we don't have proof, but if I were to place a bet, and I like to bet, I'm betting this was arson. We'll see as the investigation proceeds. Oh, and by the way, on the betting file, folks, if you're into betting on the Olympic Games, I got a good tip for you. Women's weightlifting, there's a lovely lass by the name of Lauren Hutton. There she is. Hubbard, I mean. Yes, as in...
Vern Hutton's an actual lady.
Yes, that's right. Freudian slip. Yeah, that ain't exact. Yeah, it's Hubbard. Not exactly old Mother Hubbard, is she? And the reason why she's probably going to win the gold is, well, she is a he, folks. This is someone who has transitioned. And Sheila, I'm reading the story in the Toronto Sun. It's a pickup from Reuters. It's all about congratulations. The headline even, trans athletes get big boost. We are so proud of her, as we are of all our athletes, and we'll be supporting her all the way. That's the New Zealand Sports Minister, Grant Robinson. And at the very end of the story, one little paragraph, Save Women's Sport Australia, a group opposed to transgender women competing in women's sports, said Hubbard's selection was allowed for, quote, flawed policy from the IOC, end quote. You know, to me, the most telling part of this story was the fact that Hubbard, Sheila, it is noted in the third paragraph, is 43 years old, making him the oldest weightlifter at the Tokyo Games. So what does that tell you? You know what it tells me, Sheila? It tells me that if he's back in the male division, he probably doesn't even qualify. But when he goes to the female division, he's the odds-on favorite to win a gold. How in the world did we ever get here? Well, actually, we do know. I want to plug this fantastic book on sporting, how trans activism and science denial are destroying sport. How did we get here, Sheila? As we've often discussed, 'twas ever thus that, you know, with the exception of equestrian and auto racing, the sexes were separated into their own disciplines for sport to have a level playing field. And you know what is so sad is right now we are ascending into the glory age of female athletics. There's more female elite athletes than ever before. And it wasn't too long ago, I think with the Boston Marathon, going back to the 60s, if memory serves right, females were not even allowed to compete in the Boston Marathon. There was this famous photo. It was a woman who joined all the men to race in the Boston Marathon, and she's being tackled by the police. Oh no, we can't have women running a marathon. So we've gone from that, a ban, to having a women's Boston Marathon too, which is how it rightfully should be. And now, after decades and decades of fighting for sports equality for female athletes, we have this happening. We have men pretending to be women and wiping the field. And it's weightlifting, it's wrestling, it's cycling, it's everything. And I'm sorry if this hurts the feelings of those who have transitioned. This is biology. That's why science denial is in the tagline of this book, Sheila. Because men have more muscle mass, men have a greater respiratory capacity. This is just the fact. It's just like saying men can't give birth, although I'm sure there's some, you know, Frankenstein science going around these days to make that an anomaly as well. Sheila, I am beside myself how a lunatic fringe of a percent of people around the globe have got even the International Olympic Committee going, Hubbard's a gal. Of course she's a gal. And of course she can compete against natural-born females because they are such cowards to take a politically incorrect stance.
You know, Barbara Kay's book that she wrote with Linda Blade, I think it is essential reading for every parent of a female athlete like me. I've said it a few times on the show here. I have a daughter who plays high-level rugby. You've met her. She's an athletic little girl.
Yes.
And she's great. She's in the top tier of the girls her age. However, and sometimes she does do skills sessions with the boys team of her age because she is at that skill level. But not tackling. Not tackling. The day that she has to be in the ruck across from a boy is the day that her rugby dreams are over.
Yeah.
Over. Because, I mean, the potential for her to have a catastrophic injury in a way that will change her life forever is there if she's playing against a boy. And when I look at that story of that cheater, because that's who that person is, they're cheating. They are a mediocre, middle-aged man who is stealing the Olympic dreams away from high-level elite female athletes who have trained their entire lives. That's what they're doing. And that person does not deserve to be there. Those women who have worked their entire lives, they deserve to be there. That is someone who went through male puberty, testosterone-induced male puberty. That is someone who carries more muscle mass, more bone mass because of the puberty that they went through. And their feelings do not change that biology. People, if you want to read about the madness that all of this is putting our female daughter athletes in, please go to unsporting.com. I cannot recommend this book enough. If you are the mother or father of a daughter who has dreams of doing something with their sporting career, or who just wants to play a sport they love and enjoy without having to face off against boys on the other team, or have their spot that they worked for stolen from them because some boy feels like a girl that day.
You know, Sheila, it really is amazing. I mean, I was talking to Lady Menzoid about this, and she came up with, I think, is a brilliant idea, although it means that all the other competitors will just sacrifice 4, or in this case, 5 years of training for nothing. And that is when they do the women's weightlifting in Tokyo, every single real natural-born woman just walks away from the podium, every single one. So there's only one gold medal awarded by default. He doesn't even have to lift the bar. I think that would send such a profound message, and I understand what the sacrifice would be. These women have been pumping iron for 5 years now.
They're going to lose anyway.
Exactly.
They're going to lose anyway.
And in that case, what do you have to lose? You know, last year, my sons are big South Park fans, and they said, "Dad, you got to watch this episode." I said, "Okay." And, you know, when South Park is on, it's really on. I mean, when they're good, they're great. And it was an episode, it was basically Randy the Macho Man Savage, they don't use his real name, transitioning to become a female and then just crushing these women, physically injuring them. And I sat through it, Sheila, and I think for the first time watching a South Park episode, I didn't laugh once. And my sons were shocked. They said, "Dad, we thought you would love this episode." I said, "Guys, this is beyond parody. This is actually happening." You know, South Park is trying to be outlandish and outrageous, but it's already occurred. This is a fact of life. And I want to say on the anecdote of your lovely daughter, and oh my God, she is a wonderful gal, Sheila, playing rugby. I want to give a shout out to, I hope I got their name right, is it the World Rugby Union or the World Rugby Association? I think they are the one lone bastion of sanity here that have said, that's it. We can't have transitioned women being, playing with the natural-born woman. And the reason is broken bones. You know, it is destroying women's rugby. And thank God there's at least one association there that has taken a rightful and scientific stance. You know, Sheila, all these people when it comes to so-called climate change, oh, you're a science denier. Why are you denying the science? Why do they deny the science on this and get away with it? It is absolutely, there you go. World Rugby's ban on trans players has nothing to do with so-called fairness. That of course, as Mr. Producer notes, is an anti-ban article, which speaks to what I'm getting at. Of course, it has everything to do with fairness. I don't know what jabroni wrote that story, but this is the media narrative. Probably, by the way, Sheila, from some washed-out sports reporter that has never gone on to a rugby field to compete either. You know, it's all about hurt feelings and whatnot. So there you go. if there is maybe, I don't know, there's an offshore betting outlet. Maybe I'll go to my favorite, bet365.com. When it comes up to Mr. Hubbard's turn to pump iron, I think I'll put a few bucks on it. But of course, that's blood money as far as I'm concerned. I'll immediately donate my winnings to charity, because this is an abomination, both this person and the fact that this is being allowed to happen. It is disgraceful.
Where are the feminists? Tell me, where are the feminists to defend these elite female athletes who've worked so hard in a sport that is a traditionally male sport? So this should tick a lot of boxes for these broads. But they don't step up because women's rights are second now to the rights of certain demographics. And again, I say this all the time, live your life however you want. I don't have time to care how you live your life. I really don't. I don't don't make me care. Don't use the government to make me care. But let's not deny biology here. This, for people who say, follow the science, follow the science, follow the science. I am. If you've gone through testosterone puberty, you're not going to play a sport against my daughter.
No.
You're just not.
And the perversely ironic thing here, Sheila, is, believe it or not, feminists have thrown real, natural women under the bus because of what they deem to be politically correct. In October 2019, there was some big trans protests outside a library because of a speaker who was appearing. And I noticed one of the protesters was Sherry DeNovo, who used to be an NDP MPP here in Ontario. And I came up to her to address this very issue. What about trans women in sports competing against real female athletes? And I was shocked. This is a provincial parliamentarian who used to be friendly to me, not anymore for some reason. And all she would say, chanting over and over to my questions about the inherent disadvantage in terms of biology, is trans women are real women. Trans women are real women. Every question she answered like that. Just like when I go to abortion, pro-abortion protests, Sheila, and I say, what about the tens of millions of girls that have been aborted just because of their sex, right? And all those activists do is, my body, my choice, my body, my choice. They can't argue the facts. They just resort to chanting propaganda and dogma. You can't even have an intelligent conversation about it. And like I said, the feminist movement that used to fight for women to get into the Boston Marathon are now saying, sorry, honey, you're a woman, but there's an extra special woman. That is a man who has become a woman. Sheila, I can't make sense of it. I really can't.
David, these people can't argue with you because you can't argue effectively when you're wrong and you know you're wrong. Yeah. So you just resort to chanting. And frankly, I'm really proud of myself that I made it through this discussion without making the same torn scrotum joke that I made in the staff meeting this morning. I can't believe I did that in front of everybody.
I mean, come on. If you showed 100 people in a screening room that video or that photograph or the photograph in the Sun and said, check one box, male or female, I'm telling you, I would bet almost 100 out of 100 are going to say male. That looks like Herman Munster in a miniskirt more than a real woman, Sheila. I mean, for goodness sakes, can't we have an honest discussion about this? There's nothing feminine about this. And like I said, the proof in the proverbial pudding is the fact that he's the oldest weightlifter at the Tokyo Games. Yeah. Doesn't that tell you anything, folks? He can't compete in his division. And you know what? Here's the other thing, Sheila. If I'm Hubbard, how do you live with yourself? It'd be like me getting a bunch
wearing your gold medal. You're just laying out wearing your gold medal. That's what you're doing. This is someone who doesn't care.
It'd be like me getting a bunch of my old beer league hockey player buddies together and playing a game of hockey, contact hockey, with 7-year-olds and crushing them into the boards and everybody scoring multiple hat tricks and me getting a shutout just sitting on the crossbar of the net watching the game. You think that's a victory? This is a disgrace, but the bigger disgrace is all these athletic federations, right up to and including the International Olympic Committee, saying, yeah, we agree there's no inherent disadvantage. This is a woman. Well, to quote Austin Powers, it's a man.
Yeah, I'm not sure as a sometime female athlete, like I run, whatever. I'm not sure I want to compete against someone with male pattern baldness. Like,
you're right. That's what that is.
Yeah. You can pull your skullet back into a ponytail, but it's still a skullet. You're still going bald like every other dude out there. It's fun. I was just typing it to Justin, but I'll just say it on air. When you talked about you playing against the 7-year-olds, it reminded me of that Seinfeld episode where Kramer went to karate against the 6 and 7-year-olds, and he was all bragging about how he's great at karate, and then they go to watch him, and he's beating up little kids. It's the same thing.
But in the 90s, that was parody. Today, it's real. How soon is it going to be, Sheila, before someone, a male in his late 30s, says, you know what, I identify as an 8-year-old? Yeah, there we go. This is the brave new world we're in, right? But, Sheila, if you can make believe you're the opposite sex, if you can identify as a woman, why can't you identify as an 8-year-old if you're actually 38 or 48 or 58? When COVID's over, maybe what I should do is register at the Richmond Hill Ringette Association, and I'll be the Wayne Gretzky of Ringette. I'm a 6-year-old girl, can't you tell? And how dare you bring up transphobia, that kind of idea by questioning me or my genitalia. I am a 6-year-old girl and I want to play Ringette. There.
But you don't even have to go that far. Just go join the beer league Ringette team and see how far that gets you. Just give it a whirl. Put it to the test.
How far do women play Ringette, by the way, Sheila?
There's beer league Ringette.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Yeah. I have a friend who plays. We got to get through some of these chats.
They might beat us, so we'll concentrate on the little girl.
You don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah, I want to hedge my bets here. You would not believe what Mr. Producer is saying in my earpiece right now.
I didn't hear it. Let's keep going because we got to get through these.
Yes.
Super chats or whatever we're calling them, rebel chats, and wrap up the show.
They identify as super chat, Sheila.
Mm-hmm. We've got a super huge shout from Annalisa, who, good Lord, Annalisa. David, you're in the bloodstream like an AstraZeneca clot with this woman. She says,
Wait a minute, what are you saying? Are you trying to wish some terrible illness on Annalisa?
No, I'm saying that you are just in the bloodstream. You are just headed to her heart, right up to her brain. You might cause a stroke. She says she can't wait for the David Menzies pillow.
Holy cow. You know what? I got to do special delivery on that one.
No.
It's Bonnieville, I think, where Annalisa lives. Is that right? Mr. Producer saying, move on. Thank you, Annalisa. Okay. That's so sweet of you.
We've got a hyper chat of one library from Rusty. This one's just because I love you guys. Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind. We've got a hyper chat of one library from Hell Has No Exit. Late joining today. Not sure if you mentioned it. President of Philippines announced everyone must get vaccine or be put in jail. I did not see that, but the president of the Philippines is prone to wanting to put everybody in jail from time to time. Threatens vaccine decliners with jail or animal drugs. I know he wanted to put drug dealers in jail or execute them. That seems to be a solution for all of society's problems. It's just off to jail, straight to jail.
Unbelievable. That's very sad because there's a significant Filipino population in Toronto, Sheila, and they're great people, the ones I've met. Oh. And, this man representing them, I'm sure doesn't speak for his population. That is atrocious.
My church is overflowing with Filipino Canadians, and I couldn't be happier about it because they're so orthodox in their faith. If somebody gets something a little bit maybe wandering towards heresy, they're just like, nope, red flags up. They're calling the parish office. I love it. They call the parish office, so I don't have to. That's great. We've got a hyper chat of Barry Dutton. He says taxation is theft. We've got a hyper chat of 5 libraries from At My Room Agony. My gut tells me that we're not at or ever going to hit 70% vaccination rates. We're well past that in Alberta. I think we're like at 75 or 76 now. This is a scare tactic to make the people who have not taken the jab feel like they are outnumbered and give in to the pressure. We can't trust them with their medicine after what they've done to us. You know what? Here's the thing. Even those arbitrary vaccination rates, because they really are pretty arbitrary. In Alberta, we're allowed to reopen. We hit 70. So by July 1st, we should be completely reopened as far as provincial restrictions. However, for some reason, the mayor of Calgary is like, yeah, but you still have to wear masks until the end of July. So like July 31st, August 1st. So there are just these power-hungry madmen who will never, no matter, it could be COVID-0, and they're still like, you know what, let's keep wearing masks. Let's keep social distancing, just because they get to make an arbitrary rule that makes them feel powerful over your life.
Unbelievable.
We've got a hyper chat of one library from Aquaskies 3636, says they love Ellis Ross. Yeah, me too. I really do. Odyssey from Roxanne. Trans can be trans if they want to. You do you. Yes, exactly. Just leave me alone. Live your life. It's when they try to force everyone to twist reality to fit their views that it bothers me. That and when kids are involved. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
And Sheila, I have a solution to this because, listen, if you want to, become trans, whatever, it's your right to do so. I don't care either, Sheila. So how about this? We have, 'twas ever thus we had, the athletic divisions segregated by sex. You had male, female. Why don't we have male, female, and other? So whatever you are, whatever you've transitioned to, you go into the other division. And you know what? I'd actually tune into that. I would tune in to watch that kind of a freak show take place. No problem.
I don't care how people live their lives. I don't care what they do, as long as they don't make me care. They don't make me use their specific words that are completely made up, and they leave our churches alone. Leave the churches to do whatever they want. They're not hurting you if you don't like what that church teaches about transgenderism or anything. You know what? There's always the United Church, because they literally believe everything and nothing.
Is there anyone going to the United Church anymore?
I don't know. They're just an empty building at this point that posts heretical messages on a billboard outside the church. That's all they do. And I say this as someone, my dad was in the United Church for his entire life until he married my Catholic mom. And so, it's sad. It's sad to watch what they've become. They have that atheist pastor, don't they, in Toronto?
Yes.
Pastor? Leader. I don't know if you can call yourself a pastor if you're an atheist, but anyway.
Isn't that like a fish being allergic to water or something?
Then you're a self-help group, which is fine, but you're not a church. You're not a Christian church if your pastor doesn't believe in Jesus, right? Like, whatever. That's why I'm not a member of their church. Do whatever you want over there. Do whatever you want. I don't care. Don't change. Be you forever. I'll just be somewhere else. Yeah, and that's the way that we should consider everything.
It's like joining the Three Stooges and saying, I don't want to be slapped in any episode.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, you know what? If that's what's working for them, and I'm not sure that it is, but if that's how they want to do things over there, great. I'll just go do my own thing over at my own church. And I don't want that's how it should always be, We've got a hyper chat of 5 libraries, Juice Moose. I hate to say it, but the lunatic left will make it so all biological women will have to walk away from their own sports leagues. I see a future like that. Yep. However, in Linda Blade and Barbara Kay's book, Unsporting, they actually offer some solutions, how to fix what we're doing and how to get off this crazy ride that we're on. So not only do they document the problems, but they offer like an off-ramp to what's happening here. So again, I cannot suggest it enough. If you are the parent of a daughter in sports, please, unsporting.com, get that book. It's incredible. Incredible. We've got, I think Justin tried to say hyper chat, but I don't know. He had a brief episode of something. That's not what that says. Says my room agony. It's all part of a campaign of demoralization. They know the vast majority of us think it's ridiculous, but they're manufacturing consent and creating culture through social engineering and exposure to these abstract mental illnesses. A hyper chat from Juice Moose says, I can't wait till this hits the fan at FIFA. Men competing as women will be squashed in a heartbeat. Well, maybe. That might be it. That might be what it takes is. However, MMA has Fallon Fox, right? Who enjoys hurting women. And I thought, like, Fallon Fox jumping in the ring with a biological woman and seriously injuring that biological woman would have been enough to stop this madness. But no, I think we're just further down that road than ever. And I think we're all caught up.
Sorry, Sheila, I only heard a bit of what you're saying. Yankee is in the building today. We're supposed to be in a soundproof studio, and his voice actually penetrates all this foam. It's like some banshee trying to get into my realm. So I could barely hear what you were saying. Done. But I could hear that. We're done. And boy, are we done. Well, thank you to Mr. Producer. Thank you to all the people contributing on those various chats. We really appreciate it. It's how we keep the lights out. My thanks, of course, to Sheila the She-Devil Gunn Reid. Sheila and I will be back in this spot at this time on Thursday. In the meantime, folks, stay sane.